Welcome back to Battle Station Radio. I'm your host, Kate Ellsworth. You're listening to Episode 2, Catching Up with the Rebels. Now, the Ahsoka series, which is going to come out in a 2-episode premiere on August 23rd, is sort of shaping up to be a sequel series to Rebels, almost. Now, if you didn't know, Star Wars Rebels was an animated Star Wars TV show that ran from 2014 to 2018. It's about a crew of rebels on board their starship, the Ghost, fighting the Empire. This episode is going to be sort of spoiler heavy, talking about the end of the TV show. So if you want to catch up on that before Ahsoka comes out, you'd have to watch quite a bit of episodes. But if you want to do that and you want to go watch Star Wars Rebels and not have it spoiled, then you should stop listening right now and go watch it. It's an amazing show. Now that I've given you time to click away if you don't want to be spoiled. So as we prepare to see these characters, most of them for the very first time in live action, I thought we'd go through and revisit the characters that are going to reappear in the Ahsoka TV show, kind of talk about when was the last time we saw them, and then later what they're up to now at the start of Ahsoka. The first character returning is Sabine Wren, Mandalorian. She was part of the Ghost crew in Star Wars Rebels. And the last time we see her is she does a bit of a voiceover closing out the Rebels TV show. And at the very end of that, she meets up with Ahsoka to go find her friend Ezra Bridger. So we'll get back to Ezra in a minute. Another character returning in live action is Hera. So a voiceover from Sabine in that final episode tells us that Hera fought in the Battle of Endor, which is pretty awesome to learn. And she had a son named Jason Syndulla, and that was the son of her and Kanan Jarrus, who is also in Rebels. Now we get to Ezra Bridger, who's returning. Hopefully, I think we might see him in a bit of a cameo in the very last episode. I think that's sort of the build-up that we're going to see, is to introduce Ezra in live action. Because he has an actor in everything that they announced, so it would be dumb for him not to appear. I mean, they could do like a cop-out and just show him as a hologram, but I think that would be pretty lame. So anyway, the last time we see Ezra is in the Battle of Lothal, and that's the Ghost crew. They're fighting against Thrawn, if you remember from the series finale. So basically, the only way they're going to defeat Thrawn is by getting rid of him and his Star Destroyers. And it's not looking good at the end, so Ezra surrenders himself, gives himself up, leaves his lightsaber with Sabine. That'll be important for the Ahsoka TV show. And then he goes to the Star Destroyer, and in order to win, basically, he summons this pod of Purgles, who are space-dwelling whales that can travel in hyperspace. Now, Ezra shows a really similar ability to Obi-Wan Kenobi in that he can tame various beasts. It's sort of a rare Force ability, and it's cool that Ezra shares that with Obi-Wan. So basically, he summons the Purgles. They surround the Chimera, which is Thrawn's Star Destroyer, and they sort of grab Thrawn with their tentacles, and they hold him down, and then him and Ezra are whisked off by the Purgles to somewhere in the unknown regions. We don't really know where they ended up, and it was quite the shock to have that be the series finale, where we don't know where one of our main characters even is. So now that we've refreshed ourselves on the last time we saw each of these characters and what they were doing, let's talk about what they're doing in the start of Ahsoka and all the information we can glean from the trailers. They don't give us much info, as is standard in a Star Wars or movie trailer, trying to keep things hush-hush. Start with Sabine. So it looks like, in the finale of Rebels, she meets with Ahsoka, and they're going to go find Ezra, right? But Ahsoka gives a line in one of the trailers, I think speaking to Hera maybe, about how she and Sabine didn't get along and they parted ways. So I think when we see Sabine, standing on that platform with Ahsoka's red sort of crescent-shaped ship in the trailer, I think this is the second time that they're sort of setting out to either find Thrawn or find Ezra. It looks like for some reason that first outing to find Ezra didn't end very well. It's probably been a few years in the interim. So Rebels takes place, it starts 5 years before the destruction of the first Death Star in A New Hope. And in Sabine's voiceover, she mentions that Hera fights in the Battle of Endor, which is about 6 years after A New Hope and the destruction of the Death Star. So it's been quite a while, and that gives more credence to the theory that it didn't go well with Ahsoka and Sabine the first time. One other interesting tidbit is in the trailers we see Sabine fighting with Ezra's lightsaber, and we see her call Ahsoka Master, which maybe it's sarcasm, maybe it's something that'll make sense in context. She does throw her hand up in one of the scenes in the trailer, so maybe Sabine is force sensitive. She did fight with the Darksaber in Star Wars Rebels, and to really fight with a lightsaber well, you kind of need to be able to access the Force a little bit, and it will sort of channel your energy into the blade. Otherwise, you're just fighting against the blade. So that'll be interesting to see the dynamic relationship between Ahsoka and Sabine, knowing that maybe the first outing they shared didn't go quite super well. We also have Hera. It looks like she's still part of the rebellion and now is the New Republic. Maybe she, it shows her talking to Mon Mothma and a few other high-ranking New Republic officials, so she's probably asking for help to go and find Thrawn and take care of this before it becomes a real issue for the New Republic. It doesn't seem like they're going to be super receptive, so Hera might have to take matters into her own hands. So we also see Chopper, her astromech droid from Rebels, and hopefully we see Jason Syndulla. I haven't kept up with the casting enough to know if he was cast for the Ahsoka TV show. But yeah, we don't really know a lot about Hera. Obviously, she knows that Thrawn's going to try to come back, and so she's trying to take care of this before it becomes a real big problem. Now we can move on to the character I am most excited to see, which is Ezra Bridger. Now, we really don't know anything about his whereabouts. In some of the trailers, we see Sabine looking at some of the helmets he had collected. We know that she has his lightsaber. We can see her fighting with a green lightsaber blade against Shin Hati in the trailers, and she is the sort of blonde, white-haired apprentice to the white-bearded guy in the trailers. So I don't know how they're going to end up fighting or how Sabine's going to end up doing against someone who's force sensitive, but we'll see. So we know that she has his lightsaber, and we see a hologram of Ezra in one of the trailers. The actor that they chose looks really similar to Ezra. A great acting choice to bring him into live action. So we talked about the good guys that are returning in Ahsoka from Star Wars Rebels. Now let's talk about the villains. So the one everybody is super hyped about is Grand Admiral Thrawn. So he went from Legends to making his Star Wars debut in animation form, and now he's finally going to be delivered to us in live action, and it's going to be amazing. We've seen sort of a 3-second clip of him looking very blue, obviously because he's a member of the Chiss race. So, but it's just awesome to see him blue face and all in live action. So that's going to be really fun. We don't really know what his end game is. So if you remember back to, I think the last episode of season 3 of The Mandalorian, Moff Gideon is addressing the Shadow Council, which is some defeated, Imperial warlord remnants, sort of trying to hatch a plan to defeat the New Republic and take back control of the galaxy. Now, Thrawn, from the novels, we learn that he's sort of only loyal to the Emperor because he's sort of checking on the Empire, making sure they're not a threat to the Chiss ascendancy. Now, I haven't, which is where he comes from in the Unknown Regions. It's kind of the government of the Chiss people. And so they're not really known in the wider galaxy because of they're in the Unknown Regions. And we see some other Chiss people in some of the Thrawn novels. Now, I haven't read all of those, so I don't know if Thrawn's loyalties had changed to be truly that of the Empire. We know also from the novels that he does believe in the Empire. He does believe that they're ultimately a good thing for the galaxy. But it will be interesting to see his motivations. I mean, there's every chance that he comes back. The Shadow Council is expecting him to be some sort of savior for the Empire, and he is not into that at all. From the trailer, we see that he's in his white Grand Admiral outfit. So from all intents and purposes, it seems like he's going to want to bring back the Empire in some shape or form. Well, that about covers everything in regards to returning characters from Star Wars Rebels. Thank you so much for tuning in. As a reminder, Battle Station Radio is available on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, and Spotify, as well as some other podcast platforms. It's also available as a video podcast on YouTube. Just search for Battle Station Radio. The podcast is also on Instagram and Facebook, so be sure to go follow those pages. You can also visit our website at battlestationradio.buzzsprout.com. In the next episode, we'll discuss some brand new characters in the Ahsoka trailers. Again, thank you so much for listening. May the Force be with you, always.